So I actually wanted to play the clarinet or the flute, but when we had the instrument presentation day, I thought the horn was so beautiful, like the shape of it and just the color and the shininess, and yeah, so my parents were not thrilled when I came home with a massive instrument, bigger than me at that point, but yeah, but I love it. So it was meant to be. My name is Maddie Davis, and I am a third-year UBC music student studying French horn performance. So my musical journey started when I was 3 years old. My parents enrolled me in music lessons, and at that age it's very basic, just learning like the names of the notes and rhythm, and but I always really enjoyed those classes. And so when I got to elementary school, I was really excited because in grade 3, you got to join choir. So when I got to grade 3, I joined choir, and I loved it. And I remember my music teacher was standing beside me, and she pulled me out into the hall after, and she was telling me that she was really impressed with the way that I could carry a harmony. And that was the first time that I'd been recognized for my musical abilities. So I remember thinking, oh, I love singing, but I'm also maybe good at it. So that was a cool moment for me. And then in grade 6, I started in band, and I started on the French horn. And when I got to high school, my band teacher was actually a horn player herself. So I remember hearing her play one time, and I just fell in love with the sound of the horn, and I knew that I wanted to sound like her. When it got time to go into university and graduate from high school, I was torn between sciences or music. So I applied for both, and I got a full-ride scholarship to Douglas College for music. So I kind of saw that as my sign and went. I would say that my biggest struggle as a musician is imposter syndrome, because it's something that I struggle with every day. It's the voices in my head that, tell me I'm not good enough at music, or I'll never amount to anything in music. It doesn't line up in my brain. The accomplishments don't line up with the self-talk. And I remember actually when I was auditioning for universities at the end of high school, I didn't even audition for UBC because I was telling myself I wasn't good enough to be there yet, and I didn't have enough experience, and I didn't play on a nice enough horn. And yeah, I would say that it doesn't really matter how many people tell me that they like the sound of my playing or encourage me in music. At the end of the day, those voices are still stronger in my head. I'm definitely better than I was, like with, telling those voices like, hey, actually, that's not true anymore. I've come a long ways. I'm the kind of person that feels my emotions really strongly, and a lot of the time I can't really express what I'm feeling, and it gets frustrating. And so having music, like maybe sitting in orchestra and we're playing a piece by a composer that was going through something really difficult in their life, and the piece sounds really sad, and I can take the sadness that I feel from that day or the week or month and just channel it into that music, and it helps me face my emotions and it helps me work through them. So what I love about playing with other people is I've never experienced something where you have 100 musicians on a stage that are all just giving it 110%, and everybody is, just super focused on what they're doing. There's nothing quite like that. It's a very powerful experience. It's just hard sometimes to work with other people when you have different expectations of what the music calls for, or you have different expression ideas, and that's tough too. Like I said, I try to channel my emotions through my music. So I'm always aiming to express that. I guess I'm aiming to express my truest, rawest self at that time. Before I perform, I'll often write on the top of my music like some adjectives that I feel like describe the piece, or I'll write the name of a person or a place I've been, or just anything that the piece reminds me of. And then when I go to perform, my goal is, if the audience can't see what I wrote on the top of the page, but I would want, if I asked them after, what do you think I was trying to evoke through that piece, I would hope that they would be able to say what I wrote on top of my page. And the other thing too is I think of music as storytelling, and so when I'm playing, I'm telling a story to the audience and I'm taking them along with me on this journey. One of my favorite orchestral pieces is Sibelius, his Symphony No. 5. Sibelius was from Finland, and this piece, his Fifth Symphony, is kind of an ode to his homeland and his where he grew up. And so through this piece he evokes a lot of scenery and nature, and the last movement of the piece has this beautiful horn part where the horns are supposed to sound like geese. And so every time I hear this symphony, I can always hear that line, and it sounds like geese, and it makes me emotional when I hear it, because I love nature, and just the way that he's able to portray nature through music is really special. So I feel like God has gifted me with music, because I've always been very naturally kind of inclined towards music. Without having a lot of training, I've been able to, pick up instruments and kind of play them, or I've been able to harmonize a line, and without it really being taught. So I feel like that comes from God, and I feel like it is a gift that He's given me. So I've always thought that using our gifts that God has given us is actually a form of worship. So I feel like when I'm performing, or spending hours in the practice room refining my craft, refining the raw skills, I feel like I am worshiping God by doing that. So that's one part of it. And then the other part of it is I wrote a benediction for myself before I performed, because I get really nervous performing. So I thought this would be a way to kind of ground me. And the last line of it is, may your music be an offering flowing outwards from your soul to the dwelling place of God. And that's what I try to envision when I perform. It's just my music, I guess, leaving the bell of my horn and filling up the dwelling space of God. And that's wherever I'm performing, it's in the practice room or in the auditorium. It's almost like my music is an offering, and it's going into God's ears, and He's pleased with it. So I feel that artists are important and essential to the church. My definition of an artist is someone who sees the joy and the pain and the brokenness and the hurt and the beauty of the world and chooses to interact with it. In that definition, I feel like Jesus was an artist, because he saw the beauty and the hurt and the pain in the world and chose to interact with it. Like he would sit down with people that were on the outskirts of society and interact with them, people that nobody cared about, or lepers and women and people like that, people who society had shunned. So I feel that that's the calling of the church, is to interact with those people that are on the outskirts, or interact with the pain and the joy and the beauty of the world. But so if that's the church's job, then I feel like the church needs artists, because artists are the people that go into that every day and experience that world and are interacting with that world on a daily basis. I feel like in some churches or church communities, there's this expectation on artists to kind of create nice art, to create art that isn't controversial or isn't thought-provoking or isn't dark, and that is not what artists do. Artists are normally people that are on the front lines of social change and are people that do a lot of thinking about, societal norms, and so for the church to allow artists to flourish, I believe that the church needs to accept whatever comes from the artists and be okay with art stirring up people's emotions or souls, or being okay with it being a little controversial or bringing up questions. I think that is a way to say to artists in church communities, we accept your art totally as it is.